to the Future of Work track here at YMS London. My name's Jenny Crawford. I'm the Chief People Officer at Pion, and this will actually be the third year that I've hosted the Future of Work track, and it's one that really resonates with me, particularly as a professional. This year, our track is going to consist of 3 exciting sessions for you, and we're going to be focusing on 2 key themes. The first theme is all around diversity of talent. We all know how important diversity of talent is from an ethical point of view as much as anything else, but it's also really great for business. And secondly, and really importantly, we're going to be focusing in on how to attract and also retain that younger talent in our organisations. So 2 really fantastic themes focus. So without further ado, let's get started into our first session. Our first session is all about how to win the future talent war. And to kick us off, I'm really excited to introduce you to Ali Owen, who is the founder of the Brixton Finishing School. And alongside her, Chris from BBC Studios and also Shafra from KFC, who are going to be talking to us this morning about winning the future talent war and how your organisations can overcome the barriers to entry for underrepresented talent. So please join me in welcoming those 3 to the stage now. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Thank you. Thanks so much. Hello, I'm Ali Owen. Which one do you want?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm the founder of Brixton Finishing School, and I'm delighted to introduce Chris Karova of BBC Studios, who's also a Brixton alumni, which is amazing. Hold on, I've got a helpful guide to who we are. Has that come up yet? There you go, look. And Shafra Gray-Reid, who's head of corporate and community affairs at KFC.
Hi everyone, if you didn't realise which one was which, I'm KFC.
Yeah. So we all do want one of those jumpers. If you don't know what Brixton Finishing School is, we're an award-winning network of programmes that are free for young, underrepresented talent. We work with employers to upskill talent from across the country and make them work ready for roles in the marketing, advertising and communications industry. And today we're going to be talking about how we're failing to engage a lot of young talent in our country. I'm sure nobody's immune to the news narrative that's about Britain constantly having a skills shortage. We're constantly told that we're in a talent war. And it does feel sometimes, especially this week, that we may be losing that. There's constant conversations about migration, people not being engaged. And it's really clear that we have to draw up young talent from all sectors of our society and engage them in the future workforce at all levels to optimise our businesses and GDP. But it's also clear that historically, structurally, we've excluded large swathes of talent based on their social mobility, based on their race, based on their location. And this has meant, certainly at the top of our industries, our senior teams and other sort of senior leadership teams don't have the diversity that's needed. Young people have been recently described by those in power as disengaged from society, as living in a bubble, and I feel the blame seems to rest on them for the lack of success in breaking into our workplaces. But that isn't true. You know, history has shown again and again that it's really easy to blame those without power for the decisions made by those with it. And it's easier to blame young people who are powerless than look at the structures that have created a lack of access to opportunity. Certainly the discussion we're going to have is to look at how we as employers can step in and help resolve this, because the government is not doing that, whether it's supporting all talent on the route to winning an entry-level role or rising up to C-suite. So I'm going to give you a quick whistle-stop tour of who Brixton is. We're going to look at the financial benefits of an inclusive workforce, and then basically look at why each of us should be taking action to win the talent war, and that will be a discussion I have with Chris and Shafra. So I've just got a couple of really quick slides, opening with a jazzy video, which hopefully will play. if that's woken everybody up after that cookie or donut at the 11s is. Just a quick look at why supporting all young people into work is a really good thing. I'm probably preaching to the converted. I hope if you've joined this chat, it's because you're into DE&I. But just a quick reminder of why this is so crucial to making sure you hit your company's goals. Essentially, if you're a diverse culture, you're a much more competitive and improved culture. If you've got a diverse management team, you'll return 10% more in earnings before interest and tax than those without a diverse management team. But obviously, to get a diverse management team, you have to get people in at entry level, and you have to get them up to the top. And lastly, this is one of my favourite figures, Deloitte figure. If you're a company that's all about innovation, and I imagine if you're at a youth marketing strategy conference, you probably are, if your company is culturally supportive of diversity, your team members will feel 83% more innovative, which, you know, when we talk about how hard things are today, that's really important. Just a couple of other things. By 2040, over a third of our citizens across the UK will be multi-ethnic. We are at a pivotal point of change, so we do have to make sure we represent everybody in our teams. And in marketing itself, brand marketing is the least diverse aspect of marketing overall. There's a 15.9% pay gap for the socially mobile, so you'll earn 15.9% less as a socially mobile person than somebody of a higher class in the same job, and an 8.4% ethnicity pay gap. So last bit of depressing stats. So that's good stats, and now I'm on to depressing stats before we chat. It's never been, in the last 50 years, young people are the least socially mobile they have been in half a century. Essentially, it's a bit of a shitstorm, sorry to swear, but there's been a massive defunding in the last 15 years of support for the younger generations. Connections, which was a careers advice service for teenagers, was defunded. There's been a 70% reduction in youth budgets, which meant youth centres have closed, youth workers sacked. The education maintenance allowance, which kept the poorest sixth formers in education and provided costs for travel to college, was scrapped. On top of that, tuition fees at uni have tripled. The threshold at which you start paying back your student loan has been frozen. And most people nowadays will be paying their loans back to the 60s and 70s as the student loan repayment plan has been extended to 40 years. And lastly, just as a real kicker, only a third of what was recommended by the catch-up czar post-COVID has been invested into making sure those young people that suffered a loss of learning opportunity during the pandemic can catch up. So yeah, what a great place to be. It's clear we need to lean in as employers, and that's why I'm all glad we're in this room. And it's clear that some employers are doing just that. So I'm delighted to turn to Shafra of KFC. KFC is obviously an employer of choice for young people, and the brand is working hard to empower our youth. So Shafra, would you like to share some of the amazing things that KFC are doing?
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me. I think those stats you read out are just... They keep me flabbergasted, because when I grew up, there were so many good youth investment programs around employability, around confidence building, and I definitely would not be where I am if it wasn't for those. And so to see the lack of funding that's being put into programs around young people is just devastating. And I think, you know, those are daily reminders that the challenges and the barriers that young people face are not getting easier, they're getting so much harder. We've gone from a cost of a pandemic into a cost of living crisis, and it means that the economic situation is just dire for young people. And as a result of that, I think the latest figures around youth unemployment, and particularly those who are not in education, employment or training, is totaling to 700,000. And last year, there was a 2.5% increase in that number of young people who are not in education, employment or training. And I think, you know, that's just not okay. You know, we can't sit back and just think, that's normal, because it's not normal. And in the UK, with, you know, the economy that we have, and being one of the leading countries in the world, like, to have that on our footstep, on our doorsteps, is just not okay for us to be satisfied with. And I really believe that everyone deserves a fair shot at a first job. You know, we at KFC, we've been that for so many people across the country. We are often that first step that people get into the world of work. we often say that we are, although we sell chicken and chips, we're a people business. And, we have really invested in workforce development, in developing young people to really achieve their full potential. And that is a real sort of brand value that we absolutely believe in. The power, I think the life-changing power of a first job is huge, and to be able to get young people on that ladder, removing those barriers to employment is really important. And for us, like we are, our workforce is actually 65% under 25. So most of our people are young, and so we really understand youth employment. And so a couple of years ago, we created Hatch. So Hatch is a youth employability program which we run in partnership with UK Youth. So UK Youth are a network infrastructure organisation. They work with hundreds of youth organisations across the country. So UK Youth are experts in youth work. We feel that we're experts in youth employment. So the power of the two is a really powerful dynamic to really help unlock potential in young people. So Hatch is divided in between two. So we have an employability aspect of Hatch. So this is where young people will come and work with youth workers to build their work skills and confidence, whether that's through interview technique, CV writing, confidence building, having a mentor, which is so important. I'm sure everyone in this room, well, not everyone, most people in this room may have had the benefits of having a mentor. To being able to take that time in young people is vital. So they spend about 2 to 3 weeks doing employability training, and then they come to KFC. And they do 4 weeks of paid work experience. I think the paid aspect is very important because work experience programs can vary in terms of being paid and non-paid, but we really believe that actually a paid work experience placement is vital again to help young people feel that they are have a right and are earning and are gaining potential. So with UK Youth, they are work ready to come into KFC. And they spend 4 weeks, whether that's in front of house, back of house. They're putting the theory that they've learned from the employability training into practice. And at the end of those 4 weeks, they're guaranteed an interview at KFC, and hopefully will go on to being a team member. So we launched Hatch in 2022 with the idea that we want to reduce the barriers to employment in our restaurant communities. We know, again, the barriers that are there all around us. We launched in Greater Manchester. We're now in Scotland, Liverpool, the West Midlands, Essex, I said West Midlands. A number of places now. And I think over the last 3 years, we've had over 700 young people being impacted by the programme. And that's something that we are hugely proud of because it's, employability programmes are really tough to do, but it's not always the easy thing, but it's always the right thing to do. And you have to really take that time and investment to put back into your workforce. As Ali said, you only get to where you are because someone has invested in you at a young age and at that young entry point. UK Youth did this piece of research last year which showed that for every £1 invested in youth work, so that's whether it's employability, being a mentor, there is a £3 to £6 return on that investment. So that means, we, by doing programs like this, we are actually benefiting the economy in the long term. And having young people having a route to, equitable, sustainable pathways into employment is always the right thing to do. And so, we want Catch to be one of the biggest youth employability programs in the country ran by a brand. And so we've got, a lot of energy behind it. And I think, it's a chance for other brands and businesses to do something similar. And I know that so many do, but it is getting harder. We did some research last year looking at the barriers that businesses might face. And because of the economic crisis, there was around 50% of businesses surveyed which said that they wouldn't be able to invest in employability programs because of what's happening in the economy. And so we would love to be able to make it easier for businesses and people to do this. And so, we've called on government to actually put a proper plan in place for young people. We think businesses, like for us, for example, we think it's really important to have a youth strategy embedded into your sustainability framework as the S in ESG, which is really important to us. So it's a really exciting time. I think we've got a great development of our workforce, and Hatch is how we go about doing that.
Oh, thanks, Shafra. So, mic drop moment. Chris is not only an alumni of Brixton Finishing School, she's a KFC alumni as well. Oh my God! Chris, you've obviously got lived experience, well, recent lived experience of the challenges of breaking in. Do you want to kind of share your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very interesting to share the stage with two of your exes. Yeah, so to whistle-stop tour of my journey into the industry, I kind of am a child of immigrant parents, kind of getting you into the UK for education purposes. You guys know how it goes. Very into heavy metal, so did uni, went to do magazine journalism because I wanted to be in that industry. But anyway, after I graduated, I found it really hard to get into the industry, 3 jobs in, applying to 50 things, 50 rejection emails and counting. And then 2 years passed, and then I just kind of randomly bumped into a friend that told me about Brixton, and she said there was this thing, it's marketing and advertising, and I've always thought it was an industry that it's heavily Nepo baby kind of industry, so I never really understood that it could be a possible avenue for me. So the barriers that I faced was all of the friends that I had and all of the people around me. Nobody really knew about this industry. Nobody really knew that it was a thing. I mean, half of your friends are going into politics. All of our friends are kind of like doing different things. So ended up doing Brixton, fell in love with marketing because KFC did a workshop. And I was like, yeah, I love chicken and chips. Like, I'm definitely going to apply for this. But yeah, some of the barriers that I face kind of doing it is one, the pay gap, kind of talking about that, especially someone that is from, I guess, working class backgrounds. You don't really know how to have these conversations. You tell your mom, this is how much they offered me. And she was like, take it. Like, people like us, we don't get paid like this. And I was like, I didn't even know I could negotiate. But then the power of having a mentor through Brixton was, she was the creative director at Mother. And I told her, and she was like, oh yeah, you need to negotiate. I was like, you can do that? That's crazy. I was like, I'm just grateful they offered me money. Like, what? So yeah, it's the not knowing, it's the not having the adults. I mean, my mom's a cleaner. She cleans offices. Like, she's not really going to be able to guide me into the industry. Half the time, she didn't even know what I do. She does now, because she knows what BBC means. She knows what BBC Studios is. So yeah, it's not knowing, it's the gap between being paid and just having that access to opportunities. Like, you just need to speak to people, but if you're somebody that's quite introverted as well, which is advertising marketing, it's quite heavily dominated by extroverts. So if you're quite introverted, that's just an even different barrier that you can talk about. But yeah, those are just some of the points.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I love the fact I'm your ex.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm in good company. You are as well, Shafra. Yeah. I love what you said about that not knowing, and I think there's such a massive disconnect between our world, between this little bubble we're in, and actually the reality of the rest of the UK. And I suppose with Brixton, the reason it's called a finishing school is finishing schools were traditionally a bridge between academia and marriage for young ladies, but obviously we've kind of subverted that. And made it a bridge between, two worlds, the world of normal people and the world of advertising and marketing. Not that they're not normal, just they haven't got enough normal people. So obviously, you've broken in, Chris, and what I'm loving, this is one of the nicest parts of my jobs, is watching the alumni from our courses rise, placing bets on when the first CEO happens. I suppose for me is how can employers support entry-level talent from underrepresented backgrounds, because you are a pioneer if you're from a kind of socially mobile, multi-ethnic, or maybe that's overlaid with neurodiversity as well.
So the first thing I always say is, like, people have to genuinely care about it. I think if you have to convince someone why D&I is important, it's a lost cause. But the second thing is just being interested in talking to young people. So you would be surprised the amount of young people, whether it's 18 to 25 or even younger, that are in coffee shops or in your barista cafe in your work that really want to do marketing, really want to be into advertising. So it's just about talking to them and asking, like, is this what you want to do? What are you interested in? And actually following up, and not just saying that you're going to follow up, and just being interested in their life and kind of, taking them on that journey. I think from my experience as somebody that was in, I said, oh, I'm breaking down the door and I'm getting all my friends with me. Like, that is the thing that I want to do. So I remember just any coffee shop or anything that I've been to, so many people have done Brixton, and now they're creatives, now they're in advertising, now they're in all of these different brands, and it's all because it starts with caring and actually speaking to them. So that's one action I would say to employers. Talk to young people.
Yeah. I would like to say Chris has got a very high percentage of conversion on baristas to marketing student, including the barista mother, so we no longer have a coffee maker. Shafra, what's your advice?
I think Chris is something really interesting is talk to young people. Like that is really important. We are setting up a youth board actually at KFC. We're doing it in partnership with a really amazing research agency called Youth Beyond Borders. And because you cannot know young people unless you're speaking to young people and understand what exactly they want. And Chris also talked about intentionality, like you have to be intentional about it. We always say that you cannot, sustainability, DEI, whatever sort of term you want to use, it has to be baked into your business operations. You cannot have it on the side. It can't be ancillary to the core, business that you're running. It's got to be part of the goals. When we did Hatch, we realised that there are a number of people who were kind of being disengaged at a certain point, and so we created something called the Kentucky Club, which was almost like an alumni network for those who have finished Hatch and want to still access networks and resources and people. And this is sort of an ongoing training facility that we have has got more resources online, and we do face-to-face and online events. Because again, you've got to, once you invest in the young person, you can't just take that away. Like, young people need trusted adults that they can believe in and hear from. And part of being a mentor is being a trusted adult that people believe that they can actually have someone to lean on. And so as employers who are investing in young people, you can't just leave them to just get on with their own, oh great, we've done this, here you go, take the floor. But it's continual learning and investment into that journey so that they can then grow and develop in the pipeline. Like our COO, she was a team member at KFC and is now the COO, and that was because we really believe in that continual investment and unlocking opportunities for all of our people in the workforce. So yeah, listening, in being intentional, and those are great recipes for success.
Do you know what? We've already run out of time. Thanks for the wave, by the way, because I'm really short-sighted. I can't see that at all. I should have probably mentioned that. If there's one single action you want to leave the room with, what would it be? I'll do Chris first for this one.
One single action is to just make it easily accessible for young people to be able to reach out to you.
Yeah, that's good. Shafra?
I think from a business perspective, so many businesses are looking at what sustainability means to them and their communities in the world. And for me, it's, at KFC, we really bake youth strategy into our business. And I think for businesses who are looking at, what does ESG mean to you and your business, I think having the S looking at youth impact and youth development in their futures is, for me, thinking about what can you do to really invest in young people's futures.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously I'm going to say have a chat to Brixton Finishing School because that's my job. Thank you so much, Shafra and Chris, for joining us, and thanks, Victoria, if we've run over, for putting up with us. Thank you.
Okay, we are slightly over, but it's been a fascinating discussion, so thank you, all three of you, very much. We've got time for just one or two questions, if there are any, from some roving mics.
Oh, spilling water.
Hi, I'm Clément from We Are Futures, and that was a really good talk. What do you think? Do you think that employers and brands have a role to play in the education system to bridge the gap between school and the world of work?
Do you want to say that one first, as head of corporate?
Yeah, I think so. I think there has to be, we're going for a general election right now, and there has to be much more investment in jobs and skills from a governmental perspective, and being able to, as you say, bridge the gap between when somebody finishes school to what their next step is. There hasn't been that focus and investment on a holistic approach to how young people should be thriving and not just surviving. They need to thrive, but they need those stepping stones to be able to help them to do that. So I think there needs to be a concerted effort from different government agencies, from businesses. As a business, your scale and size means that actually you've got the means and the responsibility to actually do something about it. Businesses, from a, I think, Edelman survey, businesses have a much higher trust score compared to government. And so actually there is a role that business can play in helping to bridge the gap where, you know, we might have had funding reduced from a government perspective. So I think there is definitely a role that can be done, but I do think it's about having a coordinated approach between government, businesses and civil society to help bridge the gap.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much for a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.